NBA fans rejoice as the playoffs are here, and we got an Anthony Edwards masterclass in Game 1 against the Suns. A lot of people were kind of really liking the Suns in this series. Not I. I always thought the Wolves were going to smoke them, and hey, who knows? But Anthony Edwards showed out in a big way. So I wanted to break down what he was, what he was doing today, how he killed the Suns, and also kind of focus on the Suns' defensive issues and why I was really worried about them heading into this series. So and started it with defense, turning over Durant with a steal, and his defense has been really good all season, and it was really good today. I mean, straight into the mid-range pull-up, that's light work, easy, but he's been an impressive defender. And the Suns' rotations all year haven't really been sharp. I'm not exactly sure what is going on with Grayson Allen and Bradley Beal here. Nurkic is maybe feels like picking up ball. Allen tries to kick out Beal to the corner, but he needs to be picking up Edwards, and you can't let playoff Ant walk into a wide open three. I mean, you can, but it's not going to go well, as it did not today. And Ant wasn't perfect today. There were some decision-making qualms, and this was my my preseason thought for the Suns, or my pre-series thought for the Suns, is if they can really pressure Ant, dig hard, maybe blitz some screens, force bad decisions, that maybe can be how they win. That did not happen. Spoiler alert, did not work. But there were some possessions like this where Ant still gets a little stuck, right? He's leaping here. Looks like maybe he wants to pass to Gobert, but he doesn't have an angle because he left his feet, and then he tries to throw up a shot and gets blocked by Nurkic. And, this stuff's going to happen with Ant. He's still a very young player. This is only his second playoff experience, or a play like this where his passing is still growing. Ant probably should take another couple dribbles, put pressure on Nurkic to allow Gobert to roll into space. Gobert also has, brick hands, so obviously that's, it's not like an easy... he doesn't have a good target to pass to, but Ant would be better served, right? Keeping his live dribble, pressuring Nurkic, and potentially, hopefully, drawing away Durant's help, or being able to kick it to Cat on the perimeter if he ended up sinking. But as the game went on, Ant was pretty seamlessly able to adjust and make good decisions on the whole. They tried trapping off these guard screens, and it really just wasn't working. They don't have the point of attack defenders to bother Ant. He can get to his spots and make simple passes. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was on fire from deep today, and we're going to see a couple from that connection. But again, great shot by Naz Reid, but that's what he does. The Wolves have good shooters with size, and when Eric Gordon shades hard middle, this was the plan, right? We're going to gap the middle so Edwards can't get into the teeth of the defense, which obviously he did a lot, but that opens up shit where Ant recognizes this, makes a simple pass, and it's a pull-up, and or hits a three for Naz Reid. And when you have a scorer as dynamic as Edwards, the simple stuff is really all you need. Obviously, Ant tried one of his crazy posters, but the Suns struggled with Phoenix's pace, and Durant is probably their best option, but even he can't hang with the quickness of Edwards. And even though he missed, when the center helps, that gives up opportunities for the Wolves to grab offensive rebounds. Obviously, they have such an enormous size advantage over the Suns, top to bottom on the roster. And Anthony Edwards was working off ball a little bit in this game. He didn't really need to because of how dominant his scoring was, but I like this play where Booker hard fights over, and Nurkic has to stay up at the level because Towns is obviously a shooter. That's what this two-man game does. Both guys have gravity, so you can't leave them. Booker ends up not recovering. Cat makes a great pass, and even though Beal is sitting in the paint, he's just not a threat with his lack of size and verticality. So even though Beal is there in the paint technically, he's not a threatening presence. And then this third quarter was when Ant really just went nuclear and changed the game. This split was absolutely vicious, and his handles improved so much over the years, where, like I said, as I kind of imagined, the Suns would pressure, blitz Nurkic, and try to make Ant into bad decisions. And there's two issues with that. One is that Ant has the handle and the explosion to split gaps, get through, and obviously Booker is pretty hopeless as a low man against a guy like Anthony Edwards. The Suns' lack of rim protection was obvious today. But Nurkic is also not good on the perimeter. His mobility is a huge problem. And this is something that I worried about with the Suns. Teams pulling out Nurkic and exploiting his lack of foot speed. And that certainly happened. He had some good plays and some good moments, but I do think he was, especially defensively, more of a problem than a help. And Ant was on, one of these modes where he's hitting absolutely every mid-range jumper. Great patience, using little jail into step back, and there's nothing Grayson Allen can do there, even though his defense was like all right-ish. And then this shot fading to his left bank, he was on a ridiculous heater, and there are very few players. Oh my goodness, this was probably a travel, but yeah, I definitely think this was actually a travel. What pivot foot is this? Right foot pivot foot, picks it up, reestablishes it as like his pivot foot 1-2s. Yeah, that's for sure a travel, but that looked fucking awesome, so I'll give him a pass. That was just a back-breaking type play, right? When you think you defend him well, and then it ends up going really poorly. This same two-man game with Ant and Cat gets another advantage, right? Pulling Nurkic up to the level. Booker's not the kind of defender who's going to attach on a screen, and it gets Ant downhill. And even though Nurkic gets his hands on that, and Durant does to turn this ball over, I like the process here from Edwards. He sees O'Neal stepping up, sees Durant sliding down for a packed paint, and he goes for the live dribble skip to the corner, which probably gets through if it wasn't for a good play by Nurkic. And this is the kind of passing growth that I've really liked to see from Ant. Even if it isn't always reflected in the stat sheet, the impact shows up on tape, and we can see Ant progressing in real time, and then he just hits bullshit like that, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. The Suns traded for Royce O'Neal to give them more defense in the playoffs, and no disrespect to Royce O'Neal, he's a nice player, but if he's your solution to trying to tackle a player like Anthony Edwards, you're probably not going to be very successful. And Durant had some okay moments, like this is just a comically difficult shot, and Ant was on a crazy heater, like I said, fading away like backwards. Durant literally as close to a block as you can get without blocking it. And I do imagine they'll probably continue to try that as the series goes on, because that's kind of all they can really do. But it didn't work clearly well enough, as, once again, hard hedge, sending to an Ant. That's kind of your only play if you're not going to switch, which the Suns can't really do. Durant doesn't get back in time. Edwards fires a three, and when it's one of those nights where Ant is hitting shots like this, you're going to lose. But as we've seen before, or as we've been seeing in this video, it's not just Ant on a crazy shot making heater, which he is, but this is what he does, right? Ant creates space. That's like wide open. That's a wide open shot for a good NBA shooter. And this, to me, is sustainable, what Ant did today. I don't think this was like a crazy hot shooting day that he can't replicate, because Ant was making good decisions, as we've been seeing throughout. Obviously, he was hitting some crazy shots, but let's look at what happens against pressure again. They had O'Neal on these small ball lineups. They would have O'Neal guarding Gobert because he's not much of a threat, and then you can trap and roam off Gobert. Trap Ant, force it out, gets the ball back. Gordon traps, he digs right at, and instead of turning the ball over, quick bounce pass to end the quarter. Beautiful little kick to Nikhil, and he ends up cashing a three there. And it's simple plays like this that are going to break the Suns back. And this kind of like shading is just not good enough. If you're going to double Ant, you have to trap hard. You have to send hard help and get ready to pre-rotate. Beal has to be, or I don't know why Beal's playing in the middle here. Like, ideally Beal has to be up early to a passing lane. You need someone sliding down. And this kind of effort is just not going to cut it against a player like Edwards, or really most competent initiators in the NBA. And we're seeing throughout this why I think the Suns were pretty overmatched despite their regular season success against the Wolves. And And when Ant's just daggering you like he is, right, pulling up from 35 feet, there's really nothing you can do regardless of defensive game planning sometimes. But I think Ant made it clear today that the Suns have no way to really guard him, and he caps it off with an effort steal after Gobert slams it home. And man, there just isn't a lot of optimism for the Suns. Booker had a really bad game for sure, but the Wolves' defense is menacing. They have the defenders to stop the Suns' stars, and Durant's going to get his. Booker's probably going to get his eventually, right? I certainly think that's likely. But without real rim protection to not only stop Edwards, but to stop other drives and closeout attacks on ball rotations, which we saw today, I don't really see a path for the Suns to win this series outside of, all-time shot-making offensive performances, which, hey, they have Durant, they have Booker, who knows? But what we saw from Ant, looking like a true playoff superstar, and the Suns just totally having zero answer, whether they were, ISOing or playing over or blitzing or hedging or trapping or gapping at the nail. There was really nothing that they could do, and I don't know if this series is going to go on for very long, but I'm very excited to see how the Wolves continue to play in this postseason.